Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel General Hospital today. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The world of daytime television is built upon a foundation of slow-burning storylines, where secrets fester for months, even years, before erupting into the drama that captivates audiences. For over a year, the residents of Port Charles have been living in the shadow of a single ominous letter, C. This initial, whispered in threats, scrawled on cryptic notes, and tied to a series of devastating events, has become synonymous with a pervasive, unseen evil. The question, who is C, has been the central mystery of ABC's General Hospital, a puzzle that has fractured families, destroyed reputations, and brought the city to its knees. Fans have theorized, suspecting everyone from beloved heroes to presumed dead villains, dissecting every episode for clues. Now the moment that has been teased in spoilers and promos has arrived. The identity of C is finally revealed, and the revelation is not merely a plot point. It is an earthquake that will reshape the landscape of Port Charles forever. The origins of the C mystery are deeply entwined with the fraught history of the Cassadine family, a dynasty whose name is synonymous with power, ice, and megalomania. It began subtly, a whisper on the wind, unexplained disruptions, a sense of being watched. The first major public blow was the takedown of the Jerome crime family. For years the Jeromes, under the leadership of the formidable Ava Jerome, had been a powerful, if criminal, force in the city. Their operations were sophisticated, their influence far-reaching. Then, with stunning speed and precision, their empire crumbled. Evidence, long buried and thought inaccessible, was leaked to the authorities. Wiretaps, financial records, and witness testimonies surfaced with a comprehensiveness that pointed to an inside job, but one with an almost omniscient knowledge of the Jerome organization. The only signature on this orchestrated downfall was that single taunting letter, C. Ava Jerome, a survivor if ever there was one, managed to escape the full force of the law, but her power base was annihilated. She was left vulnerable, exposed, and consumed by a burning need for revenge. She became the first major player to understand that C was not a simple rival, but a predator of a different order. Her investigations, often conducted from the shadows, led her down a labyrinth of dead ends and misdirections. Every time she thought she had a lead, it would vanish or worse, turn deadly. It became clear that C had eyes and ears everywhere. In the police department, in the hospital, in the corridors of corporate power. C was not just a person. It was a network, an entity. The mystery intensified with the targeted destruction of Hamilton Finn. Dr. Finn, a man of science and principle, found his life systematically dismantled. His reputation, carefully built over a career dedicated to healing, was dragged through the mud. False allegations of misconduct, fabricated evidence of substance abuse, and a relentless campaign to turn his colleagues and loved ones against him pointed to a deeply personal vendetta. The methods were cybercentric, leveraging technology to create a convincing, yet entirely false, narrative. Again, the mark of C was left at the scene of these digital crimes, a ghost in the machine whose sole purpose seemed to be the infliction of maximum psychological torment. Finn's relationship with Anna Devane, a former super spy and one of Port Charles's most formidable figures, put him directly in the crosshairs of this new threat, suggesting that the ultimate target might be far larger than one man. As the chaos spread, the finger of suspicion began to point in several directions. The most obvious suspect, given the history and the initial targeting of the Jeromes, was Sonny Corinthos. Sonny, the long-reigning mob kingpin of Port Charles, had the means, the motive, and the initial. His first name, after all, began with C. Constantine. Furthermore, a mob war with the Jeromes was classic Port Charles fare. Yet this theory never quite fit. The attacks were too technological, too psychological. Sonny's methods, while brutal, are typically more direct. He is a man of face-to-face confrontations and overt power plays, not shadowy, anonymous cyber terror. Moreover, Sonny himself became a victim of C's machinations, finding his own operations disrupted and his family threatened. The enemy of my enemy is not always my friend, but in this case it cleared Sonny of being the mastermind. Another prime suspect was Cyrus Renaud. The ruthless drug lord had recently been released from prison, and was methodically attempting to reclaim his territory. Cyrus possessed a chilling calm and a strategic mind that could certainly orchestrate such a complex campaign. His return to power was marked by a similar desire to destabilize existing structures. However, the sea attacks displayed a level of sophistication and resources that seemed to extend beyond Cyrus's pharmaceutical empire. Furthermore, the deeply personal nature of the attacks on Finn and others didn't align perfectly with Cyrus's more generalized goal of citywide control. He was a viable suspect, but perhaps too obvious, a red herring designed to keep the audience and the characters looking in the wrong direction. Then there were the wildcard theories. Could it be Valentine Cassadine, a man with a known capacity for elaborate schemes and a deep-seated connection to the Cassadine legacy? He had the intelligence and the resources, but his recent efforts had been focused on winning back the heart of Anna Devane, a goal seemingly at odds with the chaotic evil of C. Others whispered the name of Victor Cassadine, the enigmatic and often absent patriarch, whose global reach and icy demeanor made him a perennial candidate for any large-scale conspiracy. But Victor was presumed to be occupied with international affairs, his presence in Port Charles sporadic at best. The true breakthrough in the mystery, the thread that would begin to unravel the entire tapestry, came from an unexpected source: the past. Anna Devane, drawing on her decades of experience in the WSB, World Security Bureau, began to connect the dots between the sea attacks and a cold case from over 30 years prior: the PRISM project. PRISM was a top-secret, off-the-books intelligence initiative that Anna had been involved with during her early spy days. It was an experiment in mass surveillance and psychological manipulation, a program so ethically dubious it was shut down and its records sealed, or so she thought. The techniques used by C, the pervasive surveillance, the psychological warfare, the ability to manipulate digital records, were a dark, perfected evolution of the PRISM project's original protocols. This realization shifted the entire investigation. C was not merely a criminal. C was a product of the intelligence world. This pointed to someone with deep insider knowledge of Black Ops programs, someone who felt wronged by that world, and someone with a very personal axe to grind with Anna Devane. The list of individuals who fit that description was short, and tragically, it included one man Anna had once loved and trusted: Duke Lavery. But Duke was dead, killed years ago. Could his death have been faked? It was a staple of soap operas, but the evidence was thin. Another candidate was Caesar Faison, Anna's longtime nemesis, but he too was confirmed dead. The past was a graveyard of potential suspects, but the ghost of PRISM was very much alive. The tension reached a fever pitch in the weeks leading up to the revelation. C's attacks became more brazen, more personal. A series of encrypted messages were sent directly to Anna, taunting her, referencing shared secrets from her past that no one else could possibly know. The messages spoke of betrayal, of a promise broken, of a life stolen. The language was intimate, laced with a venom that could only come from a deep personal wound. At the same time, Peter August, who had been a nexus of evil in Port Charles for some time, found himself outmaneuvered at every turn. The man who had always been the puppet master was suddenly acting like a puppet himself, terrified of the unseen force that was pulling his strings. His fear was palpable. He knew C was coming for him, and he knew he was powerless to stop it. The stage was set for a confrontation. A trap was laid by Anna, Finn, and Valentine Cassadine, using a piece of recovered PRISM technology as bait. They knew C would not be able to resist, that the desire to reclaim this artifact would override caution. The scene was a secluded, secure safe house on the outskirts of Port Charles. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation and dread. As they waited, every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind, felt like a portent. Then the security system was bypassed with an ease that was terrifying. The door clicked open not with force, but with the silent sweep of a master. And there he stood, the man behind the curtain, the architect of the past year's torment. It was not a resurrected Duke, nor a vengeful Cyrus. It was not Sunny or Valentine. The figure who stepped into the light was one that sent a shockwave of disbelief through the room, a revelation so profound it threatened to rewrite history itself. It was Dr. Clay. Or rather, it was the man they had known as Dr. Clay, a respected physician who had recently integrated himself into the life of Port Charles, specifically getting close to Elizabeth Baldwin. But the man standing before them now was not the gentle, caring doctor they thought they knew. His posture was different, His eyes held a cold, calculating intelligence that was utterly alien. He smiled a thin, cruel gesture. "Hello, Anna," he said, his voice devoid of its usual warmth, now carrying the chilling tone of the voice on the encrypted messages. "It's been a long time." Anna Devane, a woman who had faced down international terrorists and criminal masterminds without flinching, stared in utter horror. Her mind raced trying to place him. The face was familiar yet not. And then it clicked. The eyes. The voice when stripped of its affectation. The references to Prism. The pieces of a 30-year-old puzzle slammed together in her mind. "It can't be," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of shock and dawning horror. "You died. I was there. I saw the body." The man chuckled softly. "A necessary fiction. One of the first lessons of Prism, wasn't it? Perception is reality. You were meant to see a body. You were meant to believe I was gone." "Who are you?" Finn demanded, stepping forward, his fists clenched. The man's gaze swept over them, lingering on Anna. "My name is Dr. Clay. That is one of my names. But you, Anna, you knew me by another name. A long time ago, in a life you tried to bury, you knew me as Caleb." The name hung in the air, meaningless to Finn and Valentine, but for Anna it was a dagger to the heart. Caleb. A name from the earliest days of the Prism Project. A brilliant, young tech specialist and behavioral psychologist who was instrumental in designing the project's core systems. He was idealistic, believing the technology could be used for good. Anna remembered him as quiet, intense, and fiercely loyal to the mission. But something happened. The project's dark purpose became clear, and Caleb voiced his objections. He wanted to expose it, to shut it down. There was an argument, a terrible accident, or so she had been told. "Caleb," Anna repeated, the name tasting like ash. "They told me you were killed in a training exercise. A malfunction." "That was the story they fed you," Caleb/Clay replied, his voice dripping with decades of bitterness. "The truth was I became a liability. I knew too much about Prism's true aims. My superiors decided I needed to be retired. They staged the accident. But I was always 2 steps ahead. I had built backdoors into my own systems. I saw the order for my termination before it was ever given. So I gave them a body. I disappeared." For 30 years, Caleb had been in the shadows, watching, waiting, and building. He used his unparalleled skills to create a new identity, amass a fortune, and construct a vast clandestine network. He became C. Not for Clay but for Caleb. His initial goal was survival, but over time, it curdled into something darker. A burning desire for revenge against those who had betrayed him, and against the entire intelligence community that had created and then discarded him. Anna Devane, as one of the most visible and celebrated figures from that world, became the symbol of everything he hated. "But why now?" Anna asked, her mind reeling. "Why wait 30 years? Time is a tool," he explained calmly, as if lecturing a student. "I needed to be forgotten. I needed to become a ghost. And then I needed to understand the world I was re-entering. I watched Port Charles. I saw the patterns, the rivalries, the weaknesses. It was the perfect petri dish. And then I discovered that my old project, Prism, had left other legacies." His eyes flicked toward Peter August, though Peter was not present. Legacies that needed to be managed. "You see, Anna, you all thought you were players in your own little dramas. But you were just pieces on my board. The fall of the Jeromes? A test of my systems. The destruction of Finn's life? A lesson to you, Anna, about what happens to those you care for. It was all a prelude. The depth of his manipulation was staggering. He had not simply been orchestrating events. He had been studying them, manipulating emotions and relationships with the precision of a scientist conducting an experiment. He had gotten close to Elizabeth Baldwin not out of genuine affection, but to have a front-row seat to the emotional fallout of his schemes, to be embedded within the very community he was destroying. The betrayal was absolute. The kind, empathetic doctor who had comforted Liz through her own trials was a complete fabrication, a character played to perfection by a master manipulator. The confrontation did not end with a simple arrest. Caleb, having revealed himself, had no intention of being taken quietly. The safe house, which was supposed to be their trap, was revealed to be his. He had anticipated their every move, and with a flick of a switch, He turned the tables, trapping Anna, Finn, and Valentine inside. As he calmly exited, he delivered his final blow, a monologue that laid bare his endgame. It was not enough to destroy his enemies physically. He wanted to destroy the very fabric of their lives, their trust in each other, their sense of safety. He had already sown the seeds of discord throughout Port Charles, and his revelation was just another part of the psychological warfare. The aftermath of this revelation is where the true drama of General Hospital will unfold for months to come. The immediate impact is one of profound paranoia. If C could be Dr. Clay, a man welcomed into their homes and their confidences, then no one can be trusted. Every new face, every act of kindness will be viewed with suspicion. The social contract of Port Charles has been shattered. For Elizabeth Baldwin, the betrayal is catastrophic. She had begun to open her heart to Clay, to see a future with him after years of trauma and loss. To discover that their entire relationship was a lie, a calculated move in a sinister game, will send her into an emotional tailspin. The trust issues that have plagued her for years will be magnified 100-fold, threatening her stability and her relationships with her children and friends, particularly Finn, who was one of C's primary targets. For Anna Devane, this is a deeply personal failure. Caleb's revenge is aimed squarely at her, and the collateral damage, the harm done to Finn, to the city she has sworn to protect, is immense. She will be consumed by guilt and a relentless drive to stop the monster she inadvertently helped create. This will force her to confront the darkest chapters of her past, to re-examine her time in the WSB and the moral compromises she made. Her relationship with Finn will be tested as never before, as he grapples with the fact that the ruin of his life was essentially a message to the woman he loves. The power structure of Port Charles is also in for a seismic shift. With the revelation that the true enemy is not a mobster or a drug lord, but a hyper-intelligent, technologically superior entity, the old rules no longer apply. Sonny Corinthos' muscle and Cyrus Renault's ruthlessness are almost quaint in the face of an adversary who can hack into their banks, manipulate their communications, and destroy their reputations without ever leaving his desk. This new war will require a new kind of soldier, forcing former enemies into uneasy alliances. Imagine Sonny, Anna, and even Cyrus being forced to pool their resources to fight a common foe who exists in the digital ether. Furthermore, the connection to the Prism Project opens a Pandora's box of historical secrets. What other legacies did Prism leave behind? Caleb's mention of Peter August suggests that Peter's own villainy may have been influenced or even orchestrated by Caleb from the shadows. This retroactively reframes years of storylines, adding a new layer of complexity to past events. It also raises the possibility of other sleepers, other individuals in Port Charles whose lives were shaped by the fallout of this forgotten project. The reveal of C doesn't just answer a question. It asks a dozen more, ensuring that the storyline has years of potential left. The character of Caleb/Clay himself is a formidable new addition to the roster of General Hospital villains. Unlike mustache-twirling evildoers, his evil is cold, intellectual, and born of genuine, if warped, grievance. He is not insane, he is calculated. He believes he is righting a historical wrong, exacting a justice that was denied to him for 30 years. This complexity makes him a far more interesting and dangerous antagonist. He is a villain with a cause, and that is always the most terrifying kind. In the grand tradition of soap operas, the reveal of C is a masterstroke. It is a payoff that satisfies the audience's long investment in the mystery, while simultaneously launching the show into a new, even more dangerous era. It proves that General Hospital remains at the top of its game, capable of crafting long-form narratives that are suspenseful, emotionally resonant, and brilliantly executed. The identity of C is finally revealed, but the shockwaves from that revelation will be felt in Port Charles for a very, very long time. The game is far from over. In fact, with the true player now on the board, it has only just begun.